Hello, and welcome to another edition of B.T.F.O, or Brief Thoughts for Others. Today, I'm going to be talking about the 2024 film Rumours. And I went and saw this just because it was one of those movies that I saw on my little movie app, and I saw that Charles Dance was in it. And so I was like, oh, okay, like I'll go check this out, see what this is. And the premise, at least the description that they gave on the app, was that like it's the like several world leaders get trapped in a forest like during a global crisis. So that sounded pretty fun as like a comedic premise. And I was curious to see what Charles Dance would end up doing in it. And Charles Dance is one of the better parts of it. He plays the President of the United States, and no, he does not do an American accent. He has his same British voice throughout the whole thing, which they only address once. They have one character ask him, like, what's with the accent? And then they just move on. But as far as the movie overall goes, I would say that this was a real waste of time. I would not recommend this movie. It has some fun bits, but it really cannot commit to one thing or the other. Some of the time it feels like it wants to be a comedy. Some of the time it feels like it wants to be a super absurd art house film. Some of the time it feels like it wants to be a zombie movie. Sometimes it wants to do AI. Then near the end they want to do like a nuclear apocalypse. And like sometimes they want to do serious drama, and it's this huge like mixed bag of a movie. When they do comedy, I think sometimes it lands, sometimes it doesn't. And I think for the most part, when the comedy doesn't land, this is a really good example of driving your jokes into the ground. Because like near the beginning, some of the jokes is that like they're coming together for the G7 World Summit, and they're trying to solve a crisis, or like address an ongoing crisis, and so they're all coming together, and they're all extremely vague about what the crisis is, and to the point where it could literally be anything. And so the joke is that like, oh yeah, politicians give vague platitudes that like they don't actually address the issue. And that's fine as a joke. I think that can be pretty funny. But after like the fifth time that we've done just another variation on, oh, look, they're not going into specifics. Like, oh, look, isn't that a vague platitude? It's like, yeah, okay, man, I get it. But like the film continues doing that joke, like pretty much all throughout, but like it just, especially right at the beginning, it like front loads that joke until finally they're like, oh, okay, I guess we need to change. And so then they'll switch to another joke. And like that'll last for another 5 minutes, and it's like, okay, can we, like, you know, like these are good jokes, but like, can you stop running them into the ground? Like, you know, just have a joke, let me enjoy it, and then move on. Like, you don't need to keep drilling it down as though like, oh, but like, just in case you didn't get the joke, like, here's another one. And like, as far as the absurdism goes, because I think that's definitely what the defense of this movie would be, is that, oh, well, it's not supposed to make sense, it's supposed to be absurd. And it's like, yeah, it has that in moments, but a large part of the film is like actively trying to be serious and be grounded. Like, most of the film is just these politicians wandering through the woods. There's a scene where they come across a bunch of like mud people, zombies that they all circle jerk around this bonfire, and they end up putting it out with their climax. Like, that's kind of funny in a like really absurd way. But then, like, after that happens, it's just, okay, yep, back to wandering through the woods. And it's like, oh, okay. And like, then they find a giant brain in the middle of the woods that, like, for some reason it's made this one lady, like, speak Swedish, and she gives all these, like, vague, like, phrases about the future, and then she goes back to the brain at some point, which is really weird because we spend a good like 5 minutes of the movie without that character. Like, the girl they found is just gone. Like, we see all of the other characters in the group and she's not with them, and then suddenly we're like, oh yeah, by the way, like, she's here, let's have the character, I think it's Canada guy, he goes and he follows her back to the brain, and she like sits on top of it and then lights herself on fire somehow, which is like, wow, okay, I guess the giant brain was flammable. Like, is that gonna mean anything for the story going forward? Fuck no, because this is a nonsense story. And which is kind of a shame, because one of the jokes that I actually like is so they have the French guy throughout it. He's like trying to be very deep constantly, which leads to some pretty humorous moments where I really like, because Canadian guy, when he first sees the brain, he takes a picture of it with his phone, and then as they're walking along, he's like telling them about this giant brain that he saw, and he shows the French guy and the Italian guy the picture of the brain, and the French guy goes, must be a woman's brain. And Canada's like, how could you tell? And he goes, well, you know, as far as giant brains go, a male giant brain would be much larger than that. It's like, it's a funny joke, you know, because the whole point is that, like, no, that doesn't, like, it is absurd, like, you know, but unfortunately, it's like, those are kind of rare moments that seep through. And then, like, they end up, like, they get a text, and they think it's a UN created AI that was meant to essentially, like, catch predators. Like, it's to catch a predator, but the AI version. So they're like, they're not sure if it's actually a person, like an actual child that's stuck at the castle that their UN's having their meeting at, or if it's the AI. And so they're trying to like convince it that they are a predator, but also not trying to like scare off the child if it is a child. And so like that's kind of a funny concept, but they don't really do a whole lot with it. Like none of the jokes really hit that hard with that concept. And then like when they get to the castle, they revealed that like apparently the AI has become powerful enough that it can like turn off power grids and stuff and like do all the classic AI Skynet bullshit. But that apparently because of its initial programming, it like is convinced that most of the world leaders are all like kid diddlers. So it's like trying to wipe them out, and so that's why there's no one around, is because it's shut off all communication and is like trying to get rid of all the world leader. And like that's a funny premise, but it's a lot like funnier when I'm saying it than what the film does with it, because the film just sort of like casually mentions that and is like, all right, yep, moving on. And it's like, no, stay on that. Like, if you're gonna spend time on anything, please spend time on that. And like, yeah, it's so disappointing. And then like the movie ends with they put together the little bits of speech that they had all come up with, and Canada guy reads it all out, and like it's this nonsense speech, and like we see in the distance like all the mud people fucking like they just start whacking off while he's like reading the speech. Like the sky is on fire, and then like the movie ends, they're just like, yep, okay, that's where we're gonna end it. And it's like, wow, okay, so this is, at least for me, it's kind of weird, like going from watching like Dracula and the Invisible Man movies. Like, I don't know if there's a like distributor mandate that they won't like show films less than 80 minutes or something, but whatever the minimum time is, because like Dracula and the Invisible Man movies are barely over an hour, and so it's like a movie like this one, like Rumours, I really think would benefit from just being shorter. I think there's a lot of shit that you could have cut out, and like you could have made it a lot tighter of a script. I think if you're gonna go absurd, just go full on absurd. Like I don't really get why the mud people only show up for like 2 scenes. They like, yeah, if you're gonna make it absurd, have the mud people there all the time. Like, do a lot more with the mud people than just have them jerk off twice. Like, that's so disappointing. Or like, if you're gonna have the AI concept in there, like, do more with that. Like, that's a fun concept, but they didn't do a whole lot with it. So yeah, overall I was really disappointed with this film. I would not recommend it. It definitely fits the stereotype, I guess, of art house film that makes no sense. I wouldn't be surprised if there are people online that defend it because it makes no sense and are like, oh, well, actually, it's this great masterpiece that you just don't understand. And it's like, no one understands it because it's a nonsense movie. Like, anything that you get out of it is something that you had before you went in. Like, it's like, I don't believe that there's actually like a deeper theme here that you're supposed to derive out of this film. Like, whatever theme you could have had, you inevitably thought about that before going to this movie. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for my brief thoughts on Rumours. And So yeah, I hope you liked the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.